Have you ever wondered if the things you say might be holding you back? Not in a big, dramatic way, but in subtle ways you don't even notice, okay? The ancient Stoics, philosophers like Marcus Aurelius and Seneca, were masters of self-improvement, okay? They believed that our words reflect our inner state, okay? And that by examining what we say, we can understand ourselves better and become wiser. They had a lot to say about the difference between a wise person and a fool. It wasn't about intelligence or education, but about mindset and perspective. Today, we're going to dive into 10 statements that, according to the Stoics, instantly reveal a foolish mindset. Don't worry, this isn't about judging others. It's a tool for self-reflection. By spotting these patterns in our own speech, we can catch them, question them, and choose a wiser path. So, let's get started and see what we can learn from these ancient masters of the mind. First up, statement number 1. It's not my fault. How often do we hear this, or even say it ourselves? When something goes wrong, the immediate human reaction is often to look for someone or something else to blame. The traffic was bad. My boss is unfair. The instructions were confusing. The Stoics would see this as a classic sign of a fool. Why? 'Cause it's a complete surrender of your personal power. It's the wise person, the Stoic sage, understands a fundamental concept, the dichotomy of control. Some things are within our control, and some are not. We can't control the traffic, but we can control when we leave the house. We can't control our boss's mood, but we can control the quality of our work and our attitude. By saying, it's not my fault, you're focusing on what you can't control and ignoring what you can. You're placing yourself in the role of a victim, powerless to the winds of fate. A wise person, instead, asks, what was my role in this? What could I have done differently? What can I learn from this to do better next time? They take ownership. This isn't about blaming yourself for everything. It's about recognizing your own agency. It's the difference between being a passenger in your own life and being the driver. Next, we have statement number 2. I'll be happy when ... Fill in the blank. I'll be happy when I get that promotion. I'll be happy when I buy that house. I'll be happy when I find the perfect partner. This is what we call destination addiction. The fool believes happiness is a place you arrive at, a future event that will magically solve all their problems. The Stoics knew this was a trap. Happiness for them wasn't a destination. It was the way you travel. It's a state of mind cultivated in the present moment. Epictetus said, wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. By constantly pinning your happiness on external outcomes, you're giving away your power over your own well-being. You're telling yourself that the present moment is insufficient, that you are incomplete. The wise person finds joy and contentment now, regardless of their circumstances. They practice gratitude for what they have, not anxiety for what they lack. They understand that external events are temporary and often disappointing. True, lasting happiness comes from within, from living a life of virtue and purpose, right here, right now. It's about finding the good in the journey itself, not just waiting for the finish line. The third statement that reveals a fool is, this is impossible. When faced with a challenge, the fool sees only an insurmountable wall. They give up before they even start. This phrase is a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you believe something is impossible, you won't put in the effort required to make it possible. Your mind closes down, and you stop looking for solutions. The Stoics, on the other hand, had a very different perspective. They believed in the power of human will and ingenuity. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. For a Stoic, an obstacle isn't a dead end. It's a detour that can teach you something new. It's an opportunity to practice virtues like persistence, creativity, and resilience. Instead of saying, this is impossible, a wise person asks, how can this be possible? What's the first step? Who can I ask for help? What different approach can I try? Okay. They see challenges not as threats, but as puzzles to be solved. This mindset shift is transformative. It turns every problem into a potential source of strength and growth. Coming in at number 4 is the phrase, if only I had ... This is the language of regret. Only I had studied harder. If only I had taken that job. If only I hadn't said that. The fool lives in the past, endlessly replaying their mistakes and missed opportunities. They are trapped in a cycle of what-ifs that drains their energy and prevents them from living in the present. Seneca warned against this, reminding us that while we should learn from the past, we should not be imprisoned by it. The past is unchangeable. No amount of worry or regret can alter a single moment that has already occurred. The wise person accepts the past for what it is, a collection of lessons. They analyze their mistakes not to beat themselves up, but to extract wisdom. Then, they let it go. They focus their energy on the only time they can actually influence the present. Instead of saying, if only, they ask, given what happened, what will I do now? They use their past experiences as a foundation to build a better future, starting today. This is the path to freedom from the heavy chains of regret. Statement number 5 is a subtle but powerful one. They are so lucky. When the fool sees someone else's success, their immediate thought is to attribute it to luck, chance, or unfair advantages. They got that promotion because they're the boss's favorite. They're successful because they were born into a wealthy family. This is a defense mechanism. By labeling someone's success as luck, the fool absolves themselves of the need to put in the hard work and dedication required to achieve similar results. It makes them feel better about their own inaction. The Stoics would call this a failure of perception. A wise person knows that what looks like overnight success is almost always the result of years of unseen effort, practice, and sacrifice. Instead of envy, they feel curiosity or admiration. They ask, what did they do to get there? What habits did they build? What sacrifices did they make? What can I learn from their journey? They see others' success not as a source of resentment, but as a source of inspiration and a roadmap for their own potential. They focus on the process, not just the result. Next, we have the 6th statement. I know everything about that. The fool believes they have reached the pinnacle of knowledge. They are quick to offer opinions, slow to ask questions, and resistant to new information that contradicts their existing beliefs. They close themselves off from learning. Key. This is the opposite of the Socratic paradox. The only true wisdom is in knowing you know nothing. The Stoics embraced this humility. They understood that the world is infinitely complex and that our knowledge is always incomplete. A wise person is a lifelong learner. They are curious. They listen more than they speak. When confronted with a new idea, they don't immediately reject it. Instead, they say, that's interesting. Tell me more. Or, I hadn't thought of it that way. They are comfortable with uncertainty and relish the opportunity to update their own beliefs in the face of new evidence. They see every conversation and every experience as a chance to learn. For them, wisdom isn't a destination to be reached, but a continuous journey of discovery. Statement number 7 is, that's just the way I am. This phrase is a declaration of stagnation. The fool uses it as an excuse for their bad habits and negative traits. I'm always late. That's just the way I am. I have a bad temper. It's just me. By saying this, they are essentially saying, I am incapable of growth and unwilling to change. This is fundamentally anti-Stoic. The entire philosophy of Stoicism is built on the idea of self-improvement. The Stoics believe that we are not defined by our innate dispositions, but by the choices we make every day. Our character is not a fixed stone, but a piece of clay that we are constantly molding. A wise person never says, that's just the way I am. Instead, they say, this is a part of myself I want to improve. They see their flaws not as permanent fixtures of their personality, but as challenges to be overcome. They believe in their own capacity for change and actively work to become a better version of themselves, one day at a time. They take responsibility for their character. Number 8 is a statement rooted in gossip and negativity. Did you hear what they did? The fool finds pleasure in a sense of importance in discussing the private lives and failings of others. Gossip serves many purposes for the fool. It distracts them from their own shortcomings, creates a false sense of intimacy with the person they're talking to, and provides a cheap thrill. Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself to ignore the meaningless chatter of others and focus on his own actions. He wrote, "How much time he gains who does not look to see what his neighbor says, or does, or thinks, but only to what he does himself." A wise person is not concerned with the trivial affairs of others unless it's to offer genuine help. They spend their time and energy on productive conversation, self-reflection, and their own duties. Their conversations are about ideas, not people. They understand that talking negatively about others diminishes their own character and wastes their most precious resource, their time. The 9th statement is an expression of pure emotional reactivity. This is the worst thing ever. The fool catastrophizes. A minor inconvenience, like a spilled coffee or a delayed flight, is treated as a major disaster. They lack perspective and allow their emotions to completely hijack their reason. This is a failure to practice what the Stoics called the view from above. This is a mental exercise where you imagine yourself looking down on your life, your city, your country, the entire planet, from high up in space. From this vantage point, your personal problems shrink to their true insignificant size. A wise person cultivates this perspective. When something goes wrong, they don't immediately react with panic or despair. They take a breath, okay? They ask themselves, in the grand scheme of things, how much does this really matter? Will I remember this in a year? In 5 years? They can maintain their emotional equilibrium. They understand that most of what we worry about is trivial. This doesn't mean they are emotionless. It means they are the master of their emotions, not the other way around. Finally, we have our 10th statement. I don't have time. This is perhaps the most common and deceptive statement of all. The fool believes they are a victim of their schedule, helplessly swept along by an endless stream of obligations. When they say, I don't have time, what they really mean is, it's not a priority. Seneca wrote extensively on the shortness of life, arguing that our lives are not short, but that we waste much of them. A wise person understands that time is their most valuable, non-renewable resource. They are intentional about how they spend it. They don't find time. They make time for what is truly important: family, learning, health, self-reflection. Ruthless in cutting out the non-essential. Instead of saying, I don't have time, they are honest with themselves. They say, I choose not to prioritize that right now. This simple shift in language is a powerful shift in mindset, returns a sense of control, and forces you to confront your true priorities. It's the ultimate act of taking ownership of your life. So there you have it. 10 statements, the Stoics would say, reveal a foolish mindset. It's not my fault. I'll be happy when. This is impossible. If only I had. They are so lucky. I know everything. That's just the way I am. Did you hear what they did? This is the worst thing ever, and I don't have time. Again, the point isn't to judge others, but to hold up a mirror to ourselves. Which of these do you hear yourself saying? Recognizing them is the first step. The next is to consciously choose a wiser, more empowered response. By changing our words, we can begin to change our thoughts and ultimately transform our lives. Thank you for joining me on this journey into Stoic wisdom. If you found this helpful, consider subscribing for more insights on philosophy for modern life. Until next time, focus on what you can control.